Welcome back, everybody. Mark Young here, computer science and IT teacher at Webster Groves High School in Webster Groves, Missouri. This video series is going to be designed for those that are game developers that are using Unity and would like to begin integrating GitHub. Okay, if you're not familiar with GitHub, GitHub has been around for a while. You can have a free account or a personal account, and then there's also an enterprise account for those that are working at a company. So really, GitHub is a website that has quite a few purposes. One purpose is to be able to back up projects independent of Unity. Now, Unity does have a team element to it, which, at least in my opinion, I've never heard Unity come out and say it, but in my opinion, it's a very simplified version of GitHub without the ability to make requests and the ability to come up with separate branches. And I'll talk more about that later. Again, if I've spoken out of turn, you can email me, but at least that's my experience with Unity is, you can work together collaboratively with the team and you can make publishes and you can work simultaneously. But as far as that project management aspect and coming up with issues and creating little mini sub-projects for your teams to work on and to-do list and all that good stuff, I really like that GitHub integration is there for Unity because I think, at least in my opinion, that it's a little bit stronger. Okay, so again, GitHub, its main purposes are to back up your project, to collaborate with teams, to create repositories so that you can download your project data anywhere in the world and work on it locally. And then also the ability to have to-do lists and status updates and collaborate and chat amongst team members to know where you are within a project. I'm going to have a little bit of an educational spin on this as I'm teaching this in the classroom. My students will probably watch this video as well, but I know that there are those of you out there that will also watch this video that are maybe collaborating with folks in other states, other countries, other continents, and so this will also be helpful. So a couple of things before we get started, I want to make sure that you have as prerequisites prior to watching this video series. One, make sure you have a GitHub account. Doesn't take but a few minutes. If you can create a Gmail account, you can create a GitHub account. Get that squared away. You're also going to need a Unity account and a Unity download of their software. This tutorial is really not that specific to any version of Unity. So whether, you've watched this video 5 years after I've created it, you're probably still going to be able to follow 98% of it and be able to integrate GitHub and Git services into Unity. So make sure that you have both Unity and a GitHub account. And then one other item you're going to need is actually the Git software running in the background. Let me go look that up real quickly for you here. You just want to make sure you get the right web address. There it is. It's up there in the top corner. You saw I Google searched it. You are going to want to install the Git terminal services and command software running in the background on your desktop. You'll see in a later video you can actually use GitHub's desktop client and be able to do some things outside of Unity. But I would highly recommend and require you to download Git, create a GitHub account, and create a Unity account with software download and install prior to starting. Okay, so what am I going to do first? Well, the first thing I want to do, and again, this is just my approach. Those of you that have used Unity in a while, you know there are at least 5 different ways to do everything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new project. So I'm going to say that I want to create a new project. I'm not going to worry about in the cloud necessarily because I'm going to use GitHub to back up everything on their servers. In the cloud would be really critical if you're going to do team deployment and use Unity's team aspect. Again, this video series is really an alternative to using Unity Team. We're going to use GitHub instead. So I'm going to say create a new project here and let that box pop up as it should. Okay, I'm not sure why that took so long, but there it is. Excuse me, and I'm just going to call this GitHub tutorial. That's the name of this project. I'm not actually going to turn this into a game. My students are doing 2D work right now, so it doesn't really matter for the purposes of this tutorial whether it's a 2D or a 3D project, but I'm just going to choose so I can reuse this tutorial later. Then you're going to choose your location that you're going to save it locally. In the upcoming videos, we are going to refer to that as your local repository, which is a Git term used for where's your local storage. I'm going to, for the purposes of convenience, going to choose it as my desktop. I would normally not just put it on my desktop, but I'm going to choose it for now just so we can easily point and refer to things. And then you may choose an organization if you have one there. Okay, so then I'm going to say disable analytics and choose create project. And that'll take a second. Unity by its nature tends to kind of close out that box and then takes a second to launch Unity. So if you had an existing project open when you started this video, it's going to shut that one down and then open a brand new Unity project. So we'll let that open. Okay, with my project created, I'm going to just put some basic folders in here. I'm under Assets. I can either right click here and say Create Folder, or out in this Assets preview window I can do the same. So I'll just do it over here. I'm just going to make some basic, oops, spelled that wrong. Going to make some basic folders here that I would need in any of my projects. So I'll make a scripts folder. I'll make one called animation. In fact, inside the animation, I'll split that one even more and call that one clips. And then controllers. I'll have another one in here and I'll call it sounds. How about some prefabs? And then I'll wrap this up with sprites. And I can always add more later. I'm just getting my project folder started. Okay, so now as you see, I have a blank scene. I'm also going to really quickly make one more folder now that I've realized I've forgotten it, and I'll just call it scenes, and then immediately go up to this blank scene and say scene, save as scene 1 is what I'll call it. And then I'll move that over into my scenes folder. Okay, there we go. So I've got a very basic blank project created. What I want to do now is I want to add in the integration of Git commands and GitHub. So if you do not have the Asset Store tab open here, you can find it up under Window and Asset Store. Go ahead and open that up. And what we're going to search for is Git. Now there are a lot of developers out there that have created extensions for Unity. The one that I use is the one actually developed by GitHub because it's a trusted source and there's a lot of documentation on it from GitHub. You're welcome to experiment with the other ones as you know, but I'm just going to choose the one that I know. Go ahead and click on it. And again, it says GitHub for Unity. It should say that it was developed by GitHub, and I'm going to choose to import. And that could take a couple minutes depending on your internet speed. You see here it shows everything that's going to be imported. I'm going to say yes, I want to import all of that, and that'll go ahead and pull all that down from Unity's website. Again, internet speed will determine how quickly this takes place. Okay, after I'd paused the video and allowed that import to take place, I did have the ability to update GitHub. So if you do get a GitHub message box that pops up saying that there is a newer version, up to you if you want to choose it. I went through and looked at it and used it in the past and haven't any problems with it. So I would actually recommend doing that update, and then it'll ask you to import that new update into your project. Okay, so at this point, you'll notice nothing really has changed. We can go back to the scene. Up here under the window menu, we should now see that there are 2 new GitHub options that have become available. And that is a result of importing the GitHub plugins and extensions. The GitHub command line will allow you to actually type in commands. This is another alternative. If you prefer to use Git commands to access your GitHub repository, you can use it as much as you want to. There is also a GitHub desktop client that you can use that provides a very similar function or feature where you can actually determine what's been changed per branch and push and pull and fetch from this window as well. Unity's integration of Git I think is good enough to where I don't really worry about using those unless I'm just trying to quickly do it and not want to alter Unity as is. So I'll go up here and I'll go to Window and click on just GitHub, and over here on the right hand side it is going to give me a message that says to begin using GitHub, initialize a Git repository. So at this point, we need to switch over to our GitHub webpage account and create a repository on that end. Okay, so here I am at my GitHub account, and I'm going to go in and click on my repositories. It will show me some ongoing repositories that I've been doing some work in. I'm going to say I want to create a brand new repository for my Unity project. So I'll click on new, and it's going to say, what do you want to call the project? Highly recommend that you make it match your existing Unity project so there's no confusion as to what you called it on GitHub as opposed to what you called it in Unity. Just make them the same. And note that if you do put spaces in a repository name, it is going to hyphenate it. So whether you fix it now or GitHub does it for you, it's up to you. Description, if you're going to do a lot of different games or have a lot of different repositories, it might be helpful to actually give a description here so long term you can refer back to it. So I'll say GitHub tutorial using Unity, and you have an option between public and private. If you want to make your account private to where nobody in the world can see it, you are going to have to pay $7 per month. I choose to make it public. I haven't had any problems with using public or any interference from the public, but if you're making something that you plan on selling for a profit and don't want anybody to have access to what you're doing, then it's going to be worth the $7 per month. This is a tutorial, so I'm going to keep it public. I'm going to initialize the repository with a README. A README file, in short, is where the programmers on the team can leave updates as to the status of the project, what the project's currently about, all the facets of the project, what all it's going to be able to do. So that can itself be a video series just on README files. So I'll just check it for now. I'm going to go under Add Git Ignore and look for Unity. You see there are a lot of different projects it can work with. Let's see if I can find it here. There it is, Unity. And what a Git Ignore is going to do is it's going to create a file in your Unity project that will prevent GitHub from importing every single little temporary file that Unity creates. So Unity does create a lot of files that are temporary. You don't need it long term. And what we don't want to do is have it to where every time we make a change in our project, it not only wants to send your change files, but all the temporary ones with it too, which just makes it so much more time consuming to make an update. I'm not going to choose any kind of a license, so I will just choose Create Repository. Okay, so you can see this has created a repository. That's where this video is going to stop. The next video, I'm going to get into the difference between a local and a remote repository, and then some basic terminology regarding Git commands.